Hey everybody, Rebecca here. On this episode of everyone's favorite video game podcast, we discuss Pokemon Sword and Shield and which starter is our favorite. It's not the rabbit, FYI. We pay our respects to the PlayStation Vita, for what is dead may never die. We spent some time chatting about all the great games we've been playing lately, and we also get to answer a very special listener question. Grant us eyes as we ascend to cosmic beings on this episode of Greetings From. Greetings, travelers. It is March 17th, 2019, and this is the Greetings From podcast. My name is Rebecca Faye, and I'm joined as always by my two very good friends. First, I woke up in my bed today, 100 years ago. Who am I, Olivia Quinn?
I'm not tired anymore. I want to sleep for 100 years. That sounds great to me.
Yeah, that does sound really great, doesn't it? Remember when you were a kid and your parents made you take a nap and you were like, naps are awful, but now
I wish I could take a nap.
Why.
I wish my body would let me nap at this point.
I know. Now when you don't have the time to take a nap, it's all you wish you could do. Life sucks that way, doesn't it?
Grass is green on the other side.
I'm also joined, as always, by my other very good friend. There's a great horror beneath the manor. A crawling chaos that must be destroyed, right, Tyler Smith? Are you gonna be the one to destroy it?
Death, pestilence, they are friends of mine.
Oh, yes. Open the doors of the darkest dungeon. I love it.
Yes. I have gone back to the manor. I have not escaped. Or it has allured me back once again to delve deep.
I don't know if you can ever get out, I think is the thing. You know what I mean?
That's true. Well, to be fair, I mean, we're probably going to get this a little... But I haven't beaten Darkest Dungeon. And, I've played it for 3 years straight now, and it has not happened. I haven't gone once into the Darkest Manor.
I don't think anybody has. I think if someone tells you that they've beaten Darkest Dungeon, they're lying. That's how I feel.
Possibly.
It's inescapable. It's a life. It's forever. But we'll spend some time getting into some spooky stuff that we've been playing lately. Let's start by talking about the fact that there's a brand new Pokemon game. And I say this with enthusiasm, despite being someone who doesn't really know that much about Pokemon.
It's so good, okay. You're enthralled anyway.
Where do we fall on this? Are we Grookey? Are we Team Grookey here?
Not me, baby.
Is it just me? Fuck.
Give me that Sobble.
I'm struggling because I think they're all very cute. I don't really like the bunny.
I don't either.
The thing about the bunny, I don't like the bunny.
It's very funny that they're having the bunny as the mascot or the one to tie the other two together. Where Sobble and Grookey are both by themselves, I feel and the bunny is let's be friends, guys, even though I'm gonna burn Grookey to a crisp and then die by Sobble. So it's just funny to me.
I appreciate that Grookey is Gun in Pokemon Sword
exactly.
and Shield. I mean,
it's very true.
I know it was reposted often in our Discord channel, which you all should join, listeners, if you are not in it already. But that series of panels from Hellboy where it's that monkey's got a gun. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like we're split here between Grookey and Sobble.
You're the deciding vote.
This
one day.
You're the swing vote. Yeah.
I don't know. They're both so cute because
He's got a fucking gun. Think about that.
I know. Yeah, always bring a gun to a sword fight, I guess.
I'm Team Sobble because I feel like Sobble will be the newest Pokemon type, which is cosmic horror. It'll be Sobble will be...
He's going to turn into Cthulhu? Is that his final...
Yes. He'll be the evolution? Thing from the deep, from another realm, pitch black darkness, tentacles will shoot out, and it's consume them, Sobble, and he'll eat the other opponent. Or who knows. That, in my mind, is what's going to happen to Sobble. But it's been rumored that it's going to be psychic, which is... okay, I guess.
That'd be fucking awesome. I would love that. A starter that's psychic.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I mean, it can be water psychic, but still,
right.
Same difference, right? So.
Well, that's why people hate Score Bunny, right? Because Score Bunnies or Scorch Bunny, I'm not sure which one it is going to be a fighting, a firefighting, which is every fire type nearly.
Basically, yeah. I mean, Charizard is, well, I guess Charizard is flying fire. But I thought he could turn into fighting too. Maybe that's his Mega Evolution. I don't know.
I just remember the chicken. I remember the fighting chicken. And
Torchic?
that was the... Yeah, that one. In that... People were not a big fan because it just keeps happening over and over again.
Yeah.
The fighting chicken?
Yeah.
There was
Torchic
Torchic.
Evolution.
She was like, what was her name? Was her name May? It was
Blaziken?
Maze. Whoa. Yeah.
That's like the final evolution, right? Blaziken? Something like that?
I have no idea, to be honest. I think Blaziken was the fat chicken that had the sack over his back. Or am I thinking of another one?
These sound fake. Like, I don't believe these are actual Pokemon. I think you're just describing, like, cartoon characters.
I mean, so for listeners who don't know, I haven't touched Pokemon since Pokemon Yellow. And then, like, I jumped back in Sun and Moon. So, like, I've missed entire generations of Pokemon. So, like, there are some Pokemon that I literally just discovered were actual Pokemon. Like a few weeks ago when Sobble and all of them dropped because they were like, let's look at the Pokemon design over the decades, and like went in depth to these Pokemon. And I saw some weird ass Pokemon that I've never seen before in my entire life. And I'm like, that's a Pokemon that has existed for the last 12 years and I haven't known?
They're phoning them in because I'm pretty sure that there is a Pokemon that's just a ring of keys. Like, it's just a key ring.
True.
Like, that's not... No. I'm sorry.
Man, I'm into the real dumb Pokemon. Like, I like the one that's like an ice cream cone. I think that's hilarious.
I just don't understand because I always thought the concept was that Pokemon were like animals in the wild, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, there's like key rings, in the wild.
Yeah. Well,
and like lamps. What?
So, like I said, this Twitter, maybe I'll just link it in like the show notes. So check the show notes of this podcast. But there's a Twitter thread with an artist who's like, yeah, let's look at the design of Pokemon through the generations. And he's like, Generation 1 was very animal focused. Granted, there are some things, Pokemon that are like derived from items, like let's say, Magneton, which is basically like, a magnetic screw, basically, right? Or like, I don't know, Electabuzz or whatever. It's just a ball, right? And then he's like, okay, well then you move on to the generations, like Generation 3 and 4 or whatever, and then they suddenly become not derivative of nature, but like this more geometrical or like really weird and no longer derived from like animals. And like that's where I think Generation 3 and 4 people kind of fall off the wagon a bit, or where you start to kind of lose people because these creatures are no longer familiar and are just like really abstract, and it's like, what the hell's going on? And they go into like in depth of like why this one Pokemon that has a bajillion spikes on it is the worst Pokemon designed ever, because it's like, what's going on here? Where's the focal point? Why is the like head the heaviest thing on this Pokemon when, it has all these other appendages, and it's weird. Anyway, definitely a really interesting deep dive thread on Twitter that I found. It's quite the gem. I suppose I'll link that in the show notes, as I have already said.
Speaking of ugly Pokemon, yeah, I was just wondering because like I really get sad when they evolve, and I usually do it because I'm like, there you go, better stats or whatever. They just look so ugly.
Cute.
Like the second evolutions and the third evolutions, like in particular, like Rowlet, who was my favorite in the last gen.
Oh God, I know.
Got like emo and horrible as he evolved, and I'm wondering what you guys, who you guys think is gonna be like the ugliest evolution out of the starters, because I'm gonna say it's probably gonna be Grookey, even though I'm like into Grookey as like the original. Like his evolutions are gonna suck.
I think Grookey's gonna be hot.
But I feel like, is he going to turn into like a silverback gorilla? Or is he going to turn into like some kind of nightmarish abomination? Like there's two options.
Yeah. He could also
He's gonna fuck. That's all we know. He's gonna fuck.
He could also be a eldritch horror from the depths, just like Sobble. But I still feel like he's gonna be hot. He's gonna be like Litten from last Sun and Moon, where he just turns...
Wait, was Litten hot? Did Litten become hot?
I think turns into Incineroar.
And Incineroar is the hot one of the three.
Yeah, that's right.
Because what's his name? What's the water one's name again? I don't even know.
Poplio?
Poplio's so cute and adorable, but then he turns into a diva, which is fine. He's gorgeous, beautiful, but you got the diva, you have the hot one in Incineroar, and then you have the angsty teenager Rowlet, and you're just like, what's going on here?
Well, what happens to Scorbunny because it's like already half on the way to being in Space Jam?
Scorbunny's a jock, and as we know with all jocks, they'll be like ruined by the very end. He's gonna be like a stepdad to someone.
He's like working at Walmart.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he like somebody's personal trainer out of his basement?
Pretty much. Anyway.
So, we have very high hopes for this game, I can see.
Yep. Can't wait.
The inevitable downfall of Scorbunny.
Can't wait.
I don't know. I still feel like my vote is out on the breaking of the tie, because I don't like the bunny. I find it upsetting. And I'm stuck between Grookey being really cute and Sobble being like anxiety-ridden and something I feel like I need to care for and hold forever. And
but isn't that the thing? Isn't that the point? It's so cute and like so sad that you need to take care of it. And,
yeah, but the problem is that Pokemon games won't let me take. That's all I want is just a big Tamagotchi game, and they won't give that to me. I have to fight frickin' kindergartners who were like, "Bitch, I'm gonna beat your ass." Like, no. Shouldn't you be in school? Shouldn't I be in school? What's happening here? Where's my dad? I'm confused about this family situation. I have a lot of questions.
And Scorbunny comes and he's your dad.
Oh my God. Okay, we're done.
Are you gonna buy this?
When your mom breaks up with Mr. Mime, does she get a Scorbunny?
No.
Well, how else can he be your stepdad? Yeah, I might buy it. I don't know. I fundamentally don't really enjoy Pokemon games because I want them to be something that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I've still been flirting with picking up Let's Go Eevee because I want to put hats on it and pet it and, take care of it.
I'm nervous they're taking like a step back with like the random encounters, and then like I really would like the Pokemon to follow me around. I want to be able to pet them, like in Let's Go Eevee and stuff like that. Like I hope they bring those systems over. We don't know enough yet to say if they're getting rid of them, but it would really be a shame if like all the fun stuff from Let's Go gets removed.
Yeah, I wonder if the reception was good. Like I wonder if people didn't like it, and so they don't want to, move forward with that if they think it's not what series regulars are going to want to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just hate, I really do hate random encounters. And like that's something that Let's Go took out where it's like you can see the Pokemon and I don't really like the catching system in Let's Go, but I feel like it made me re-examine my views on like, oh, is it really fun to like try to like kill a Pokemon or get it down so weak and then catch it when I would always fuck that up, or like get a Scyther to get false swipe so I could always make it happen. And I'm like, there's really not much there. So I hope they can kind of tweak the formula a little bit and branch out.
Yeah. I would like to see some innovation as well to its core Pokemon game. Because for some reason, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that basically Game Freak thinks that Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu were just kind of like a one-off game. And it was like, that was it. And that was cute and fun. But now we're going to go back to our known and tired and true roots that like everyone seems to love. But the reason why I returned to Sun and Moon is because it had that new companion, or you were able to take care of your Pokemon in a more personal way, like feed them the candy hearts and make them happy and like pet them and stuff, and that like for whatever reason did it for me, and I was like, yeah, this game is fucking rad and I love Pokemon again. And so I'm hoping that continues on to this new game, but we'll see. So you never know. They like to take a lot. They go 2 steps forward and take 5 steps back, and like then take 10 steps in a different direction, and then take 2 steps forward again. So who knows where this will go? I am very hesitant to see where this goes. I think it's not going to be what we expect it to be. And so I'm like, my expectations are low.
Well, until they give us Pokemon Gun with Let's Go Eevee controls, then
honestly,
don't even talk to me.
I'm surprised that they didn't do like three different games. That'd be cool. That'd be kind of a harken back to Red and Blue, and then also like the Green, very first
I
games.
kind of wish they would stop doing different versions of the games.
It
just seems like
also
a
hear that
shameless
too.
cash grab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah,
you could just trade like over the the Wi-Fi now, can't you? Like, I remember when it used to be a thing and you had to have the cable that would connect your Game Boy Colors together, you know what I mean? And somebody had to have like an actual peripheral in order to do it, but now it just seems kind of like, well, if I can like Pokemon Go this shit and just, call up my friend who bought the other one and just get then what is the, you know what I mean? Like, who even is actually sitting down and buying 2 copies anymore, except for like
Not
a
me.
handful of people?
I definitely didn't do that for Sun and Moon.
I also did that. So, I mean,
like,
I also did not do that.
Well,
there's the global trade system, which is like, I think, an answer to this problem. But, the people on there are ridiculous. And they're like, oh, I'll give you this Caterpie if you trade me, like, a fucking Mewtwo or something. And I'm like, no, this doesn't make sense. There's no, like, good trades here. So,
yeah. All I had people on the global trade, they'd just show me all their shinies and then be like, what do you got? What do you, like, what would you trade me this for? And I was like, bitch, I don't have any shinies. What do you want? Do you want this level 6 Pikachu with, like, really bad stats and stuff? And there was always no. I would always have to I'd always try and find the automatic trading shit, and where it was like specifically, I want this Pokemon and you'll get this Pokemon, and I was like, okay, right. And like I did it, and then it was like overnight I would get the Pokemon. I hate the actual global trade as it like live, because the people are always snooty bitches with all this, either too much time on their hands or like all these shinies that I don't have, and I'm just like, I can't help you. You're too much power. You're too powerful. Anyway.
Your aura, it's too strong.
Your aura is too strong.
Oh, it sounds like Pokemon is actually awful, though. Like, it's bad.
Yeah, but it's so good.
I mean that in the most loving way, yeah.
I mean, I can see why you haven't played it in a very long time, and also why I have not played it in a very long time. So
the only one I ever played was X and Y. That was the only one I've ever owned in
X
my
and
whole
Y is
life.
so good, though. Did you, like, fall off that one?
I didn't, yeah. I got to the point where I got to, like, kind of the main hub, and I was just like, I don't think I'm enjoying this at all, and then I never played it again. I think I did, like, 2 or 3 gyms, I feel like, because I remember that. Like, and I remember, I don't know. I guess that was kind of the point where I went in and thought, like, I thought this was going to be more than just battling Pokemon, and then it wasn't. And I was like, oh, huh. Interesting. How did I not put this together? So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I didn't play it as a kid, so I guess I maybe would have felt differently if I had the nostalgia of like, this was on my Game Boy and it was all I had, and you know what I mean? I still get to relive that, every couple of years when they come out with a new one.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming in when you're like, I don't know, 20 years old and playing a Pokemon game is like the worst time to start playing, because it just doesn't, the magic's not there. It's just not there. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, Pokemon. We'll have to see what that's like when it comes out. So I also want to take a minute, a very special minute. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to commemorate the PlayStation Vita, which has officially been killed off by Sony, finally, after it has ignored it for years.
Press F for respects.
RIP.
Yeah, press F to pay respects. Yeah, I don't know why it took them so long to end production of it, because they haven't been supporting it for so long that it became a sort of a meme every E3 about how Vita was being left to die slowly in whatever sort of hellhole it got put into, and then they sort of very quietly took away Vita games as part of your PS Plus subscription, and then they finally were like, yeah, JK, we're done. Yeah. Well, okay, so I had a Vita. Did either of you have a Vita? Am I the only one mourning Vita today?
I had a PSP. That's not a Vita, obviously, but it's my...
I had a PSP too, though. Those old UMDs.
Wow.
I want to get some of those. Get my collection of UMDs going right now.
Yeah, I don't know why we thought that was the way to go, but
But it was cool.
We did.
You know, at the time, right? It was just like, oh, you got this little thing, and it's not a Game Boy, and it's got little discs, right? That's the PSP's little discs, correct? Or is that also the Vita? The Vita was also discs,
the Vita was
right.
No, the Vita was cards.
Oh,
so the Vita had cards, sort of like the Nintendo Switch does, or like the DS and all that stuff. Right. So it had these little dinky cards, and like the Vita was such a trash fire because it was like it ran on completely proprietary software. You had to buy a proprietary SD card in order to increase the memory
or whatever.
Yeah, and those things were like $120 for 25 gigabytes, which was not worth it at all.
See, I never had a PS Vita, so like I don't know all of these horrible stories that had to go with it. I know that PS Vita was like, I don't know, it was again, like you had left out, and like, but then at the same time had like secret gems on it. But it was like, I think the reason why I didn't have it was because when it came out, I was at a point in my life where I was like starting to pay for things, and I was like, I'm not going to pay $200 for a portable console that I'm probably going to lose and or break, and then like the games, there aren't many games that I want to play on it.
Yeah, the Vita was a really weird console because it was a thing that indies were ported to. So like when indies first started kind of coming to consoles, they were getting weird, sometimes awful ports for the PlayStation Vita. And so there was kind of a thing for a while where sometimes if you bought a copy of a game on your PlayStation, as an example, like I think the one that comes to mind for some reason is Sound Shapes. Like I remember playing that on my PS4 and it came with the PS Vita copy. So there were a lot of times where you would get like the two copies at the same time if you bought that. And it also was a place where all of the spin-off games had a tendency to go. So like as an example, I had the white PlayStation Vita that for a while you could only get if you bought it with Assassin's Creed Liberation, which was like an offshoot game that they did just for the Vita. And it was like the first time they had a female protagonist, and it was set in New Orleans, and I really liked it actually. And Uncharted Golden Abyss was on, that. So it was like a side story in the Uncharted universe. So it was just like a very strange console. But then like midway through its life cycle, it started to get all these really great remasters. So like the Final Fantasy X and X-2 remaster went to it, and it's other places now too. But like Persona 4 the Golden went to it, which is sort of the best definitive edition of Persona 4. And I think by the end of its life cycle, it became like the only place where you could buy every single Persona game and play it was the PS Vita. So I don't know. It's just such a weird thing to say goodbye to, because it's obvious that Sony didn't give a shit, but it was also like so strange and like interesting, and all the content that went to it was really cool and different. I have a big place in my sad little heart from a PlayStation Vita.
In like the last 2 years, I have been like hunting for a decently priced Vita, and are
they really expensive?
So they're like, $130 on average, but I was like, this seems like a lot of money to pay for a console I'm only going to play one video game on. And then Fortnite came out, and I was like looking for Vitas, and they all disappeared. And so I ended up talking to the guy who worked at the used game store around me, and he's like, yeah, I guess kids found out you could play you could play Fortnite on your PS4 through your Vita. So they've all been bought up now.
Oh
yeah, and
gosh.
I thought that was a really like funny turn. And now that they're like not making anymore, I'm like, man, I gotta get in now before they get like all sold out and they're like worth $1,000, like the sealed Wii U's or whatever.
Yeah, so the Vita had native remote play on it with your PlayStation 4, which was really nice. Sony just rolled out remote play for tablets and phones, which, I mean, the magic isn't quite there, I don't think, but whatever, it's fine. But I can see why when the kids figured out that they could play Fortnite even more than they already do, the Vitas would go away. Man, Sony, you could have held on for the Fortnite market.
Right.
And then everybody would have wanted a PS Vita.
It was unforeseen.
And there's just so many good ideas, like you're talking about, with like all the indies getting ported and like just having those be in a portable fashion. And I feel like they just missed such an opportunity. Then the Switch came and it was like, hey, what's up? I'm going to eat everything that you're doing and leave you for dead. And Sony was there first in that space, but maybe the tech wasn't there. So then I'm not sure why Sony chose to totally abandon it, but it's really a bummer.
Yeah, it is. I think the Switch, like, I wonder if the Switch could have existed in the state that it does without the Vita. I mean, I realize that that's giving the Vita a huge amount of credit that maybe it doesn't deserve. But the thing with the Switch is it's very similar in that it gets like a lot of really weird remasters. It gets a lot of indie ports, but it's able to bridge the gap between being a handheld and being an actual full-fledged console. So I kind of feel like, you know, the Vita was the last of a dying trend of I have a console and I have a handheld console, and I just think that that's not how people work anymore. You know what I mean? So I wonder if in the future there'll be more Switch types where it's sort of a both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although it's still at the expense of hardware. You know what I mean? Because I know that the Switch is obviously not as powerful as, like, you know, your Xbox One X is not going to have a handheld version.
Right. I do wonder if, like, the push towards, like, streaming video games, like the, you know, playing them remotely and then streaming them to your local device is, like, gonna bring, like, the Switch like experience, but with larger games. Like, I really do question if that's going to play a larger role in all this.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I think that the PS Vita could have been a PS Now machine, essentially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If that was just the place where you had a PlayStation Now subscription and you could play whatever old game you wanted through the streaming service, like, that would be really cool, I think. But then you get into the trouble of having an always online collection, and, you know, the Vita had some connectivity issues sometimes. It wasn't perfect, but it was a really interesting, weird piece of tech that I am sad to see it go, but man, Sony really killed it a long time ago. It's just...
I just think of the giant...
surprised.
I was going to say, I wonder, you know, if... Because obviously the Switch is very successful, but I feel like the Switch is only successful because it had Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, like all of these exclusives. In addition to obviously then porting all these indies over, but I like trying to remember. I don't think that there was any exclusive to the PS Vita.
Gravity Rush was the biggest one, I think.
You know what? That's right. That's true.
And then that one eventually went full, like it got ported to the full big console, and they came out with Gravity Rush 2. But yeah, I think for some reason that's the one that stands out to me as like the one was Gravity Rush 2. I think they had some other kind of weird...
Tearaway was originally designed to take advantage of all of the features.
Tearaway
Vita,
was
right?
also original Vita. Because then Tearaway Unfolded went to console, so any of the like really popular games ended up getting like reverse ported.
Yeah.
Which
is interesting
and
because
was great on the Vita.
You figured you wouldn't do that, so that way you could sell more Vitas because it's only on that platform. But then, who knows?
It came also at a weird time in Sony's sort of exclusives history. Like, you figure they've really been kind of, you know, knocking some balls out of the park with the last, like, God of War and The Last of Us and Spider-Man and just like all of their, you know, exclusive content that they had. Bloodborne obviously was a big one at launch. And I think the Vita came like just before that. You know what I mean? Like it came out like just before we'd really hit our stride. And so I think maybe it would have been in a different place if it was like the Switch, where it was like, hey, we're selling this with Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. Instead, it was like, we're selling this with an offshoot Uncharted game that you don't really care about, and Little Big Planet, not Little Big Planet, but Little Big Planet kart racing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it had just like a really weird legacy. And I wonder if it would have been different if it was the PS Vita with, you know, Horizon Zero Dawn. Here it is. Enjoy.
Have you guys seen the PlayStation TVs, like the Vita TVs? Like, I've never seen one in person, and I'm like trying to find. It would be nice to get one of those instead of getting a real Vita. You know what I mean?
I've never really seen one.
I haven't seen one.
Like
either.
Such a weird curio. I'm like, I don't know. The whole Vita strategy seems very bizarre when you think about they had a console, like they had a PlayStation 3, and they were like, hey, what if we made like another console that was for the TV, but only play Vita games?
I don't know. There was kind of a weird. It did kind of come out around that time that people were making like the Ouya, and people were trying to disrupt the console industry, and it wasn't really working, and we just had a bunch of consoles that didn't really do anything very well. You know what I mean? I think they felt pressure to follow up the PSP, because then remember they had the PSP Go at one point, which was like a very weird piece of mid-range technology. It was also like a phone, I think. Yeah. It was like a flip phone. PSP.
There was what Well, I don't know about that, but I did. My actual previous phone was the Sony Xperia, where you could play your PlayStation games through your phone. And for the hot second, it was like the tightest shit ever. But then, like, I also used it once or twice because the connectivity and the controls were awful. And it was like, this is a good way to just like watch Netflix through my PlayStation on my phone without having to like have the TV on. And it's just like, well, at that point, because I don't think at that point Netflix had a mobile app, and that was the only way you could really watch it on your phone, as far as I remember anyway. But then the app came out, and it's just like, well, what's the point of even doing that? So, but yeah, I don't know. It's neat for a hot second. Playing video games was tough. I tried to play Last of Us, and it was like, I think I should just get the controller and play on my PlayStation.
I applaud you for trying, though. You know what I mean? Like, you still did it.
Yeah.
Even if it was awful. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't the best phone either. But it's, whatever. It's in the past. Sony got me once. They'll probably get me again, but,
This is not related, but do you guys remember Sidekicks? The T-Mobile Sidekick? Did you guys have one?
Yes.
I always wanted one.
I wanted one so bad. I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, you had one, Tyler?
God, do you guys
Oh, yeah. In high school.
Wow.
I had the Motorola Razr, so I had the first like flip phone, and then I had like the Sidekick, and it was
you were very
Mr. Phone
cool
right now.
Mr.
Worldwide Phone.
Shout out to my dad. He's the one who got it for me. But yeah, the Sidekick was the shit, and I was a cool kid. Pull it out of my pocket and go whoosh, and flip it out, and, type. Anyway, it was a fun phone. I miss it. And it's coming back now, right? Technically,
wait, it's
kind
back?
of with that. Well, Samsung has that flip tablet phone, which is kind of like a Sidekick, but not exactly. It's $2,000, just a small penny.
But you could do the whatcha thing, and like you could pull it out of your pocket and then talk to someone. Wouldn't that be cool? Isn't that worth $2,000?
I just
I mean, it's a phone, but it's also a tablet, right? So like you have your phone, and then you fold it open, and it's a full on tablet in which you can just like type on it and stuff. But it hasn't been released.
is that this is the foldable screen one you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
That shit is weird, but I'm kind of into it.
But
I can't wait till they make it cheaper and more affordable for consumers.
That's what I was going to say. I'm ready for the future where it's more affordable. But you know what, though? You don't know, because I think Samsung and the other phone companies, since Apple is now like selling their phones for $1,000 and people are just eating it up, they're like, oh, we have kind of like a monopoly on cell phones. Like, let's just all fucking sell them for $1,000 now. Like, let's just do that. It's a thing. Let's just do it. And then your phone company makes it more affordable by doing payment plans for 2 years, but you pay, interest back. So you're paying like double the original price. And it's just like, well, in this economy, I can't afford $1,000 all at once, but I sure can afford 24 over 16 months or something like that. Well, and
then by the time it
sounds
is.
like a Kingdom Hearts game.
By the time you own your phone, it's like in full on like planned obsolescence mode, and it doesn't really work very well. And you're like, oh shit.
Yep.
You're just one update away from bricking it all together.
Speaking of obsolescence and mobile devices, since we're in this sidebar already, have you guys like ever played an N-Gage before? Because I would like to experience that at least once in my life.
No, but I'm fascinated by them.
Yes, I was gonna say I didn't know that they existed until I think you guys mentioned it a while ago, and those are a beautiful, beautiful piece of technology.
Yeah, I guess the taco design does have its charm. I do like. I was looking into like N-Gage emulation because I was like, man, it'd be really cool to play. Like, I don't really want to go spend $400 on N-Gage. I'm gonna play for 30 seconds, but like, I want to see what the Elder Scrolls games were, and turns out that it's not a high priority to emulate an N-Gage. So there's no real like functional ones.
I'm surprised not even like strict preservationists would be trying to keep the hope of the N-Gage alive.
Go get on the MAME forums and ask them to support N-Gage. The people are demanding it.
I mean, there's dozens of us. Yeah, it's a. I love every time we think about making a console that is like not needed, and then we have all these weird, like I saw an Ouya in a Goodwill not that long ago, and I just thought like, yeah, that's about right. I think
you should have snatched it. Or
did
you
have what am I going to do with it? I don't even
originally?
think it still works. Like, is there even still a server that the Ouya will connect to so I can download all 4 indie games that were ever on it?
I don't even know, man. But you have to have it. Just make it like I don't know. Make it a potted flower.
I'm gonna hollow out the Ouya and put a plant
Just
in it.
hollow it out.
Can you write off the Ouya?
Put a succulent in it.
Ouya tax deductible.
Oh, I do hope they keep making weird consoles. Like, so I know Google is having some kind of press conference about like their future of gaming, and then there's all this conversation coming on about the Xbox One like discless console. Like, I hope I'm really glad we're still out here full ass making stupid console. You know what I mean? Like, I may straight up buy a discless Xbox One just so I could, play some of the digital games I've wanted to play, but I also feel like, I don't know, it just seems so fucking stupid. I'm really sorry.
Well, I mean, it's late in the game for anything now. We might as well wait until next year when the consoles
Yeah, but
are
I want to buy it when it's $100, not when it's $500. You remember when the Xbox One was announced and it was like $5.99 and it looked like your TV cable box?
Yeah.
It was like the ugliest brick.
Well, there was reason for that too, is because Microsoft at the time was like, we don't know what the fuck to do. What are games? Let's try and do a whole entertainment system and just be those guys. Like, we're DirecTV now with video games.
I remember buying one for the center and trying to set it up, and it was like determined to be also a TV box. It was like, just stop. Like, don't be like this.
Yeah. Well, that's when they introduced the always online thing
and you
too,
could
correct?
yell at it. You could yell
and
at the TV. Like, I remember playing Rise, because there were parts of Rise, Son of Rome, where you had to yell. Like, you had to do like a battle cry at the TV. That was a bad time in games.
Did you do Fus Ro Da on
No,
Skyrim
well,
too?
I think I did on my PlayStation, but then I was like, I feel stupid. Like, I feel really dumb right now.
You can either yell out loud or press a button.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to keep pressing the button. I think I'm okay with that. I think my neighbors would like me better.
Anyway.
God, I can't wait for the next Xbox to have a Kinect in it. I can't wait for them to bring it back.
Oh my gosh. Chris still has a Kinect.
I still have a
Kinect. And it's solely for Dance Dance.
It was actually really good for that, too. Like, and it was weird because it had tracking in it. It could move around and shit. That thing was crazy.
I think the Kinect is super cool
with it, but
yeah, I wish that it had like actual drivers for like Windows 10 or something, because I feel like that the idea of a Kinect as like a tool that people could hack on would be really, really fun. But they never really went that route with it.
People like jailbreak them now and use them for stuff.
Wasn't there like doctors and shit using Kinects to like do certain like scans and stuff like that? Like, there was a whole like gray market of like using Kinects as like some kind of software for research and medical equipment.
I thought they were doing it for 3D printing or something like that.
Oh,
I'm not entirely sure. This could be false. I thought it was for 3D printing because it was just easier to like make the model by just rotating a Kinect on a rail around an object. And it just made things easier. Who knows? I don't know.
This is what I just want us to keep making stupid technology. That's really all I want. Just keep making dumb shit, and I'm here for it.
And we will.
If it plays a video game and tries to be 10 other things,
it enslaves us.
Perfect. Do you guys want to talk about some games you've been playing? Okay.
Yes.
Well, Tyler, since you're enthusiastic about this, do you want to go ahead and tell me what you've been playing lately? We haven't.
Well, I mentioned at the top of the podcast.
Talk to me about Darkest Dungeon. Are you playing on the Switch? Or are you playing on the PC?
No. So I wanted to get the Switch version, but then when Darkest Dungeon was released for the Switch, there were reported bugs that were like, yeah, don't buy it because you'll get locked in, or you can buy the base game, but if you bought the DLC, the Crimson Court, which I haven't even touched yet, they were like, if you buy that DLC, which I think it even comes with the base game on the Switch, is why it was an issue. they were like, don't start the game, but don't do the Crimson DLC Court because there's a bug that will fuck your file up at a certain point, and like you literally just lose all of your progress.
That's some
and you have
real
to restart
homebrew
again.
Vita shit right there. The legacy lives on.
Yeah, so, and like shout out to the homies who figured that out like right at fucking launch, because how would you know that? It was like 20 hours worth of time, you know. Anyway, point being, I didn't buy it for the Switch because of that bug. They've fixed it for now, or fixed it now, so like I could go ahead and buy it and play on the Switch. And honestly, I'm seriously debating it because I'm playing it on my computer, and that means I can only play it when I'm home, which means usually when I'm like really late at night, and that means I can only do like 1 or 2 dungeon runs because those things take forever. And anyway, I've been really enjoying my time with Darkest Dungeon. It seems to me like I have this unannounced anniversary of playing Darkest Dungeon. At the beginning of every year, I seem to just fall into it again, and I've never completed the game despite how much I've loved it, how much I've played it, how many hours I've sunk into it. And this time I'm like the farthest I've ever been, and it's glorious. And I don't know, that game, it can be so brutal, but then you can bounce back from it. Like I was doing really well in my campaign that I'm doing now. I was doing really, really well. And there's this new DLC out, and it's basically just an endless dungeon run where it's just like wave after wave of monsters until you either get to, I guess there is technically an end to it, but it's literally just, there's no corridor crawling, I should say. It's literally just monsters spawn one after another until either you die or you get to like the end boss, and then you beat that boss, and then you like the mission is complete. It's a different kind of strategy for the game, because normally you're in a dungeon, you have food, you have potions and stuff to rely on with your guys, and like stress is an issue, but the endless dungeon one is like, it's a whole different mindset, because you have to like, now food is not an issue because you're not stopping to eat, you don't camp, you don't like there's no downtime, so like you have to plan for that. Anyway, I totally lost all my shit. Like I lost all my party. I wiped once, and it was awful because I was like, man, I could take this place. It's a veteran level place, and like I got my level 4 dudes. They could totally take it. They've been there before. It's fine. No, I totally got decimated and like lost all of my money. I had 0 gold coins, which means I couldn't heal my stress guys, the ones that did survive, and like I couldn't recoup my trinkets that I had lost. But then like, you know, I played a few other like little dungeons that are easier, and like I regained all my money back, and I'm in a better place. But like, it's that kind of game. I live for that high risk, high reward kind of play that it offers. And I am excited for the second one that will be coming out, I think, later this year or next year. But that's what I've been playing.
Have you played any of the DLC then for Darkest Dungeon?
So, yes, that the endless dungeon mode or whatever it's called. I think it's called like the Farmstead or whatever. I've played that. There's the Crimson Court DLC, which I have not touched because it involves like a plague. Once you engage with that DLC, it basically introduces new monsters into the world called bloodsuckers, and though they inflict a curse upon your people, and like you have to then, it's a whole nother like system or of mechanics where you have to manage their curse, their blood curse, while going through other dungeons. And if I knew that you could like turn it off, or like if you could just go through all of the Blood Court DLC and like finish it to the end and like no more blood curse, I would go ahead and do it. But from what I've read, that's not the case. It's forever in the game, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with that bullshit at this time when I haven't even finished the first, like I haven't even gone and traversed the endless dungeon or like the end game of Darkest Dungeon. I haven't even done that yet, so I don't want to play with those kind of mechanics still.
Gotcha.
But
I haven't checked the game out yet, so I've seen stuff, but I've never played it, and I keep looking at all the DLC, being like, this is like a lot of DLC. But if I don't really need any of it, and I just want to play the base game,
just play the base game.
It is.
There's so much there for just the base game. And like I've spent a lot of hours, like at least 100, and I still haven't beat the game. But then again, to be fair, it's like I've restarted like 3 times. So,
it's a lot. Like, it's a big game. There's a lot to experience, and it's something that's kind of obtuse with all of its systems. So learning all of the character classes, like learning the kind of core gameplay loop, and it's a huge ask, I think. And so I think you would be able to keep busy for a long time, which is the base game. It's good. It's a really solid package. It's quite impressive. I really like it as well. I got myself out of it, and now I'm afraid to get back into it again because I don't know if I can get out again. It's just very very consuming. Well, that's where I am. You know what I mean? And like, it's one of those games where you become very obsessed with like reading the Wikipedia and like checking the stats, and then you got to learn that this and and then you just, then you're just gone and you're playing it every spare moment you have.
Anytime I play, I have at least like 8 tabs of the Wikipedia open because I'm like, oh man, I'm in this dungeon. I encountered this bookshelf. What the fuck does it do? And like, is the positives outweigh the negatives, or like, am I just gonna roll the dice and like get cursed or die by searching the bookshelf? Anyway.
I found myself getting very attached to all of my characters too, like especially the 2 that they give you in the beginning, who actually are named, like Dismas, the highwayman. You know what I mean? Like I feel very attached to them, and I feel like a huge failure when they die. And I don't think I think you're supposed to feel that way so that you aren't reckless, because people aren't necessarily an infinite resource. I mean, they kind of are, but at the same time, it just feels bad. It feels really bad.
Yeah, it feels real bad when you lose anyone, or when they're Olivia, in this game, there's I mentioned it earlier, but I didn't really explain it. But there's a mechanic called stress. So not only in this dungeon are you taking like health damage, but you're taking stress damage. You're going basically like it's an insane meter. And so when it reaches to 100, your character will undergo like a transformation, and they'll either go crazy or they'll become virtuous and like bounce off of that madness and like have this super strong resolve. And so like, it's when they go into a crazy state, you're just like, oh no, I have failed you. And then when they go into a virtuous state, you're like, yes, you persevered. I'm like, you're my champion. I'm rooting for you. Like, let's go. And it's a fantastic like little victory moment when that happens. So
it feels a lot like
really
playing
cool.
Dungeons and Dragons too. Like, it has that tabletop feel to it, which I think helps. And I love I know I've talked before kind of about mixed feelings on Lovecraft in general, and I think it's worth linking again the Waypoint episode that they did where they kind of talked about sort of the cultural implications of using and liking Lovecraft in games. But I think the conceit that usually comes out of this is using stress or insanity or madness or insight as a mechanic, as like a meter, as like a means to reach some kind of all-knowing, world encompassing, grant us eyes kind of thing. I always think that's a really interesting way to play with a mechanic, you know what I mean? Because I think it's just it adds a really cool layer to the game as a whole, which I feel like is maybe super relevant because I know you said you played Cultist Simulator. we spent a lot of time with some Lovecraftian 10 types of things this week, I feel like.
Definitely. So I'm gonna jump over to Cultist Simulator. That game is obtuse as fuck, and I think I was pushed away by it because I was like late on Saturday, and I was like, you know what, I gotta check this game out. I want to know what it's all about. And it was like probably like 11, and I wasn't in like a good headspace to be playing that game. So I started it, and I was like, well, I'm dead. I guess I got all this like God, what is the mechanic where like you gain it despair? And I was like, oh, I guess I've like gotten all this despair, and I'm dead now. But I restarted it today with after having slept and feeling good about like playing a video game, and that it's super engrossing. And I'm like, I definitely get what you're saying, where it's like you need to read everything and like try to make those connections in your head, and that's really, really cool. Like, that's a really, really cool feeling. One thing I wanted to ask you about. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've played it. I've played a little bit too, and I'll just say like I love it. I have no idea what's going on,
That's normal.
But I love it. And so I think my first playthrough, I died of a heart attack, like after ages and ages and ages. And then my second playthrough, I'm this super cool surgeon person. But anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say my first guy died, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be the like the rich kid, like class or whatever, like it's like young thing or something like that. And I was like, I have all this money. I'm one for nothing. And that was like a really good feeling to just like be like, I'm gonna make my cult. I'm gonna like buy all this stuff. I'm gonna go to the store a bunch. Like it's a really the different experiences you can have with that game are like really strange and awesome. Rebecca, do you have any like tips for new players? Anything you wish you knew?
So let me think. What I would recommend doing is so if you take the desk job, like you just do the standard desk job, that is generally how I've kind of gotten into the loop of it. I haven't explored as much when it comes to being like the surgeon or the rich person or whatever. And they're adding more starter kind of classes that you can play as. But accruing money, like getting to a point you accrue money, obviously is key. So you can dream on a coin, and it will give you a tincture of opium, which will allow you to dispel despair. FYI. Just do that, okay? Like that will help you a lot, because obviously once you're despair, you know, once you get like 3 despair, then you just fall into madness. But dreaming on the coin, which gives you the opium, which allows you to it grants you contentment. Is it dreaming or is it health? I can't remember. It's one of the two. I think it is.
I think it's dreaming. I think you need to dream but there's like a risk reward mechanic, right? Because if you dream on it, you could also like lose your coin, I think, or actually gain despair. It seemed like that was what I had read.
Well, no, I mean, I thought if you dreamed on your coin, or if you dreamed on whatever it was, it would consume it. So
I don't think it consumes it, but I think it does give you a, like, I know for the health one in particular, it will say like, you could get despair from this.
So you pay a coin for the tincture, and then you dream on the tincture, I think is what the logic is. So I think that risk reward is there. I have actually never had it backfire on me. So I think it's a very rare circumstance. I mean, again, your mileage may vary, but I think using that with caution is always a good thing. And it took me a long time to learn that I could do that. And that was really the easiest way in the early game to combat despair, especially as you're like first starting to explore cultish type stuff. I would also say that leveling up your vitality quickly, like getting an extra card of your like constitution, vitality, that whole thing, is good, because vitality is a very precarious resource in that game, where if you become sick and you lose a vitality card, or it's kind of knocked out for a while, and then you have something that pulls on your vite card, like you're gonna be dead. You know what I mean? Like it's such an easy way to just be dead really quickly. So that would be another thing I would say. So I think you have to, it's hard because when I don't have the deck, like when I don't have my spread in front of me and the game open, I struggle to like remember. But there is a way that I think you can study your vitality, which gives you like an item of strength, which then if you're able to combine, like study a couple of those like strength items, it creates a vitality card. And you could do that for your like insight and your constitution and everything. So
yeah, I kept getting the glimmer cards or whatever, which I think you need two glimmerings or something like that. Combine them to get an insight, and then and I didn't really make that connection until I'd been playing it for a while. I'm like, I have all these glimmerings and they're all just like expiring on me. Yeah. What the hell? So I definitely feel like it's one of those things you have to just like pound your head at and be like, I need to figure out what these combinations do. And then it's fun when you get that little like cool combo. One thing I did want to point out is if you double click on the empty, because I was having trouble figuring out like, okay, what goes where? If you double click on the empty slot where you would put something, it'll highlight the actual cards that can fit in there, and that was super useful because I kind of skipped the tutorial. So
I think they've added more in, because I remember when it first came out there was like nothing, and it made no sense at all. There was like no tooltips and nothing.
Oh yeah.
I would also tell people not to play it without being fully present, because this was how I accidentally...
Definitely.
So I had a game where I was playing and I was like in a really good groove. I was making money. You know, I was sort of like buying the books and I was kind of going on explorations and everything was pretty good. I was managing my despair and everything. And then at some point I stopped paying attention to the cards that I was putting down on my job, and I started sacrificing like my dreams to the job. And eventually I got an end game that was like, you just enjoyed having a desk job and you gave up on a cult. And I was like, what? I didn't even pay, like, I wasn't even focusing on the fact that I was putting everything I had, like all of my resources sort of absentmindedly into my job, which made me really good at my job, but really bad at being a cult leader. So, oops.
Hilarious.
Whoops. I just got complacent. That was a fail state.
Yeah. And would you guys consider this game a clicker? Because that's what I kept thinking as I was playing it, is I was like, oh, this is just like a clicker, but redefined, which isn't bad. I just thought it was like a really funny
it is
version
for
on
sure.
that genre.
I still...
But it's satisfying, because you're clicking and dragging things around, and like they disappear, they come back, you have a timer. It's kind of like, it makes has a little bit of an anxiety element to it, because you're like, I have to get rid of this card before it expires, and this one's 30 seconds, but this one over here is 10 minutes, and
the act of divining, like looking at it as if you were sort of divining a card like a tarot or like a Lenormand or something, I think that really speaks to the thing as a whole. You know what I mean? Like, so creating your kind of custom spread, like the spread that makes you feel comfortable. And I like that they let you pause the game too, so like you can kind of pause and think about what your next move is going to be and make conscious decisions. I don't know. I think it's a really well designed game. Obviously, despite the fact that it's
definitely
sort of hard. Like, there's definitely a wall that you hit when you play it the first time. But I think it teaches you from your mistakes in a good way.
Yeah, and I feel like it wouldn't, like, the aesthetic of that game lends itself well to making it hard to read. Like, I feel like if I just knew everything out of the gate, then like if it showed me everything, like the game would be nothing. So I'm really happy it like held some of that back. I just, I would have bounced off of it, I think, if you hadn't told me to go for it. So I think anyone who wants to play it, I would push you just to kind of like give it a couple rounds just to see if you would enjoy that game. Speaking of the occult and Lovecraft and stuff like that, have you guys heard of this game called Soma?
Soma. What a game.
It's a really scary game, guys. I did not realize how scary it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like, it's really fucking
so are
terrifying.
you officially going through with playing it on passive, or are you still playing it on full balls to the wall scary mode?
So I started, okay, I'll give some context to this. I was playing on a stream, and I was like, I did the first part where you're fighting not fighting, but you're trying to avoid the robot that's following you, who's kind of screaming at you or whatever. And I was like, okay, this isn't that bad. And then you get to the person who, like the creatures that it's like, don't look at them, like the ones with the lit up heads that are like kind of walking around. And there's that one scene where you're in the, like in the ship that's sideways.
Yes.
And I got to like the last, I looked up a guide because I was like, I just got to know how close I am. And I'm in the last stage of that, but I just could not get through it. And those fuckers can like teleport and they can open doors. And it's really, I thought I had like a really good strategy of like keeping all the doors closed so I could keep an eye on them. And then I turned around and saw him just looking at me and I screamed. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm dead, take me. And they don't, if you're not looking at them, they don't kill you, which is the other like unsettling part. It's like, it's not even like gonna come get you. It's just like, if you look at it and you catch the corner of its eye, it will start moving towards you, which is like horrifying and terrible. So, point being, I did restart playing it on the not death mode, like the safe mode, which I think was the right move because that game is fucking scary as shit. It gets good though, right? Like the story gets good.
It goes some places.
Yes, it is a little slow. I will say it is a little slow at first because when I played Soma when it came out, I was like, I mean, okay, I'm here for the scaries, but like this story is mildly interesting. But then it totally picks up. So after you get past that sunken ship, and you get back into I guess I'm not gonna spoil it, but I'm just like you get back into like the lab kind of stuff. It gets a lot more interesting.
There's like a thing that I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. There's a thing that occurs that sort of explains the kind of general conceit of the whole game, and eventually will become a very key aspect of the ending. You will know exactly when it happens because they spend a lot of time talking about it. So,
yeah, they
gotcha.
do.
In terms of like the safe mode, Rebecca, are there parts where you can still die?
I'm not 100% sure because I played the safe mode mod before it was an official part of the game, and so it made everything passive except for any sort of scripted chase sequence, like the one on the ship with the thing you can't look at that chases you out. That is scripted, and so it couldn't change that around. So I'm not sure if the like developer supported one does or not. I would be interested to know because some of those scripted scenes were part of the reasons why I've been struggling to kind of finish getting through it again. You know what I mean? Because I just hate it.
Yeah.
I would say
definitely.
If there's specifically like two parts where it would not work, and those are at the very end or somewhat towards the end. And I can't.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't.
Yeah.
Think it would
because I don't know. I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's little. It'd be a little interesting if like nothing happened if you had no consequence of just like kind of sitting there and staring at whatever is in front of you.
It is like I do feel like I have to say how fascinating it is that this game is still, in my opinion, even more scary with passive mode turned on, because I think some of the creatures are so horrific in their own way, not like in how they look, but just the concept of them, that is really upsetting. Mm-hmm. And so I know the one that I mentioned in our chat was the little robot, the kind of like little sweeper robot out in the open water that sort of follows you around, and he's aggressive on not passive mode obviously, but when you're in passive mode he just follows you and he's like muttering to himself and he's paranoid and he's angry, but he's just sort of following you around. And I found that a little bit more upsetting than just having to avoid it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. There was like a mini series, like some kind of TV, or not TV, but like a web mini series thing. Did you guys watch that?
Yeah.
And if you did, is it worth watching?
So it was their teaser for Soma. You could watch it. It's a little. I mean, this was so long ago too, so my memory is not 100%. But from what I remember, it doesn't really give anything away for the game. It totally sets everything up, and it's like super creepy. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on? Why is there this girl with all of these tubes and wires? And like, why is what's going on? Like, I don't understand. There's no real there's nothing to like ground you in what's going on. You only know that this is part of Soma, and it definitely doesn't give away really anything that goes on within the game. I would say I'd recommend still watching it just to see like what they did, because I thought it was kind of a cute advertising gimmick that they did for our promotion for their game, but it by no means is like a narrative story tied into the game. Or I mean, it's possible that little mini series that they did is, but I did not make that connection while playing the game, so I don't know.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll check it out. I think that's worth. I think the story is the most compelling part of the game to me. Like, I really enjoyed that they didn't. Like, I really thought the game was going to be like, oh, like you find out like in 4 hours that you're a robot, and then that's like, no, that's like the first reveal that you get, and it's not even the most interesting thing that happened to me so far. So I'm just excited that they're willing to not like do those cheap things like you were a robot the whole time. Like, I'm glad that they're just getting that information out there pretty quickly. It takes
that in places that you don't maybe expect. Like, I guess I wasn't expecting it to go there because I didn't think that hard about it, and then it changed a lot of things for me. So, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna experience the Soma. And then the last game I played, that Division 2 beta. I think that it's more Division, and those enemies are really bullet spongy. I feel like all Ubisoft games have become like the Ubisoft game, where it's like, you have a drone now, you have X, Y, and Z. Like, these things were in like Assassin's Creed, and also now in like the Division, and also in Tom Clancy's whatever. I don't know. I appreciate that we have all these features that you can like kind of fuck around with, and they're all quality of life things, but it kind of feels like a little bland. And the politics of that game are fucking bizarre. It opens with this montage being like, we were worried because people didn't have guns. They turned on each other. And I'm like, this isn't This is like a horrible message to be sending.
Yeah.
And it doesn't reflect like the reality of what happens in these kinds of things. So, I think Waypoint is a. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say Waypoint had a really good discussion about the jackals or whatever, or the hyenas, whatever the. Yeah, being like, oh, they're like protesters who were like fighting the government, who actually like they have a secret fighting force that's like inside the United States. And they were protesting that, and then after society collapsed, they've like started like killing folks, and I'm like, that just seems like a really poor reading of the situation.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the concept of like the Ubisoft game, because there was a conversation going on Reddit Games today, where someone was saying like, what is it now with generally popular AAA games where once one person does one thing, everybody does it, and then all the games kind of just become the same massive experience over and over and over again. And I think, Ubisoft had that with the towers. Like, that was always the thing I hated about Ubisoft games. You have to climb a tower and it opens the map. And then they kind of shied away from that, but are now kind of coming back around as just the same thing but different. Come on.
Yeah, I guess I just it really actually made me want to go play Destiny 2, just because I enjoy the shooting in that game so much more than, the shooting in the Division, because I feel like all those enemies are really bullet spongy, and like it's unfamiliar to me compared to Destiny, which I'm like, oh, this is like a warm blanket. I'm just going to wrap myself in here and put on a podcast. So I'm like, maybe that... Yeah. Let's start saluting. I'm interested. I want to see what the Dark Zones are going to be, because I think that's like an interesting concept, like the PvE versus P kind of thing happening there. So, Tyler, you also played a little bit of this. Did you have any thoughts about the game?
Well, I mean, it's kind of what you touched on was, it's so far of what they've presented to you or to people through the betas is literally, it's just, oh, you're shooting protesters who are protesting the government and who like went wild, and now it's just you're the government, the Division people are the government. Yeah, you're trying to reinstall government back into order, and it's just like, I don't know.
I also, that's a question I had. I'm like, what is the status of the government? Like, where are you getting your orders from? Like, I was like, is this set up in the Division 1 and I'm just missing it?
Well,
do you have any insight on that?
That's the thing is, I mean, did you do any of the missions in the beta, or did you just kind of like run around and see the city?
So I did the first couple of missions, and it's like, oh, like the Division, like they're all set up in
the White House.
The White House, yeah. But I'm like, who are we fighting for? You know what I mean? Like, who's the actual structure?
That's what I thought the whole thing was about, was essentially, so right now there is no government, but the Division agents are activated because they're like sleeper agents, I guess. And now that there's no government, they are the government, acting government. They're just one branch of the government, the executive branch, just making executions left and right.
Okay.
But
yeah, I guess I didn't. I figured that was the case, but I was like, I can't have been reading this right. This seems like a little too fascist for me, but I'm glad that that's actually what it is.
So since we're at the White House, now the White House is trying, you, the Division person, are trying to reestablish the old, or you're trying to reestablish a new United States government. And so you are technically working for the United States government, trying to get it back up and running. And that's why, like, you had to go and save that, daughter of someone who is important at the White House right now, who's trying to gain, leadership or whatever the fuck, who was kidnapped. I don't know. It's Ubisoft, and like their plot's not that great. It's literally just, what can we do to make you go shoot people? And that way players have a good time. And like I said, I think in previous podcasts, where the Division games really shine is in the environmental storytelling, and like finding all of the random cell phones and laptops and like those little story bits that you get. It's not really their main mission stuff, because their main mission plot points fall completely flat, and it's just like, we just need to give you an excuse to go use your gun against people. So
I guess I didn't get a chance to comment on the actual like not raid but like the strike equivalent in the game,
yes.
where you're like going to get the daughter. And I thought that was actually really cool when you're like, oh, we're gonna team up with like 3 people and like do this, and like it throws a fuck ton of guys at you and you're just blowing shit up everywhere. And I thought that was kind of a fun riff on the formula. So I get more of like that kind of stuff, and I hope we can get some more information about like, hey, what are our goals here? What are we trying to accomplish? Because it seems like right now it's all like you're just going into autonomous like settlements and being like, I need you, come with me to go rebuild the U.S. government when you already got something going on here. And it just seemed like a really weird like tonal
bad
shift.
That I don't understand how everything went to shit everywhere, because I was under the impression that the original problem was the smallpox virus was printed on banknotes, and it was Black Friday in New York City, and everybody died. Well, not everybody, but it was basically like martial law, it descended, it was chaos, right? I was under the impression that was an isolated event, and so I was confused when the Division 2 came out, and they were like, also the whole world has gone to shit, JK. Did I miss something?
The beginning of the game kind of like... So I was also confused about this. The beginning of the game kind of like sets it up where I think like a rogue Division agent maybe brought the virus back, but that was my reading based on like some like ambient dialogue that I heard. Tyler, do you have any more information about this?
Well, see, so it's a little unclear because the opening sequence is like, everything was okay when Black Friday happened. Like everything wasn't okay, but like, you know what I mean? Everything after the Black Friday shit went down, everything was like okay for a bit, and then the pharmacies lost the medication. And so then it was a struggle for who gets medication. Did you own a gun? And like those who did, they're the ones who survived because they just shot the other motherfuckers and got their medication. And like it's like a really weird like, oh, the whole world fell into this loot everything.
Looting. Yeah.
The schloot attitude.
The schlooting.
Let's get this schloot.
And so I don't know. From my understanding, Division 2 takes place... I mean, obviously, Division 2 takes place after Division 1, after Black Friday. It's supposed to be like that spring and or summer after the winter of Black Friday. I don't know. I mean, New York, it's not... I thought that the Black Friday thing wasn't just New York. It was kind of like the whole East Coast. Like, it was definitely that New York, D.C., Virginia, like that like little area, Maryland of East Coast, and like that's where it happened. And since it was on printed money fucking travels, right? So like it's not too much of a stretch to say that it went outside of New York's bounds and like went into New Jersey and DC and all that other stuff, other places. But like you definitely don't see the ravage of that time period. It's not like, when you're playing Division 1 in New York, you see these trash bags and like biohazard bags, implying like there are fucking just dead people in those bags. And like you don't see that at all in DC. It's a relatively cleaner city. There's still like broken down shit, but there's no like garbage everywhere like there was in New York. So it feels like people kind of cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like there's like actual settlements. Like people are farming, they're like doing things, which I don't think the Division 1 really had that. Like it didn't seem like people in the Division 1 were like getting along.
That's the farming thing is the mechanic in Division 2, where you're able to like recruit these special people to these settlements, and these people will unlock like farming or whatever else to...
It's fucking weird though. Yeah. Like why are you taking these people who are like running autonomous settlements and being like, hey, come to my like DC hideout, we're gonna like farm some shit. I don't get it. I don't get why you would do that. If you're like living away from the government, you already have your thing going, you're like stable, and some random fucker shows up, it's like, I saved your daughter, come with me. Well, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Frustrates me.
I don't know.
I want it to be... Do you remember the Disney Channel original movie, My Date with the President's Daughter? Can it just be that? Can the Division cut to that in the middle of the game? It just plays the full film of My Date with the President's Daughter. I'm so sorry. That's what I want.
Speaking of non sequiturs, Rebecca, what's up with the Devil Triggers?
Oh yeah, so Devil May Cry came out last week. Oh, it feels good to be back.
That laugh is pretty good.
Yeah, it's a game. The plot is terrible as usual. It goes places that I'm just like, sure, yeah, okay, whatever, fine. That's what we're gonna do in this game. Not like Devil May Cry's ever been. People will fight me on this, but like, it's bad. Like, some people want to be like, actually, Devil May Cry 4 told a good story. Like, okay, but it's still really bad. But yeah, that game is great. It's really good fun. It feels good to play. The combat is really slick. They did a really smart job by making a lot of the characters play very differently. So Nero, with the, he could like pop his robot arm off and it can do different things. Like, one of them is just like shooting a laser beam and one of them is explosives and whatever. That's really fun. But then Dante has like 9,000 weapons, including the motorcycle that he can ride and also break in half and hit people with. And so he has like a whole bunch of other moves, and he has like a special where he turns into a demon, and like that's all, you know what I mean? And then they brought in V, this new character that looks like a superbly emo Adam Driver, as if he needed to look more emo than he already does. Who like is sort of non-combative. He has these familiars that do battle for him, and like basically you could power up your familiars while they're fighting for you by reading poetry and just kind of walking around behind them. It's the funniest thing. And he wears some sandals and he's just chilling, basically. Yeah, he's an interesting character. But basically, yeah, you command your familiars. You have a bird who hangs out with you and he's kind of around. And then you have like a panther. And then you also have this gigantic rock ooze demon, which you can ride also, if you're into that. You can ride him around like a tank. But you just, like, they do the fighting for you, and you just kind of try to not get hit and sort of walk around, and you can kind of hit stuff with your cane, but you're not a sort of arcade fighter the way that, Dante and Nero are. And so I thought that was a really interesting addition to the franchise. It's like a different way of playing.
I gotta know about the combo system with this, because that always seemed like a core part of Devil May Cry, where it's like you're gonna like kick ass and like get an S ranking. That's really important. How does that work with the Sunny boy?
Most of it is just about maintaining combos. Like, breaking combo would lower your score, basically. And so with him, it's like, I don't know, it's not quite as snappy, but it's sort of like switching back and forth between your familiars. Your familiars can be downed. So if they're downed, you have to revive them in order for them to fight for you. And so obviously, like, the time that you spend with them downed is time that you're losing off of your ranking. And so keeping your familiars up and active, and then like sort of switching between them based on what the situation calls for, and like upgrading them so you have more moves and stuff. That's kind of the key experience. I think you could probably do pretty well. Like, I just play on normal because I'm not insanity. And I consistently get A's and S's in my, you know what I mean? Like, it's not super difficult.
Okay.
If you want to play on like, Demon Hunter, and yeah, it's gonna take a lot more time.
How is the music? Is there any other like gems?
That's
like
the song
Trigger?
that plays every time you go into battle, so you better like it, because you're gonna have to listen to it.
This game is terrible.
And it plays over the intro.
Why?
And yeah, but it still has like everything you love out of a Devil May Cry game, like really bad one-liners and just statements that make no sense, and a plot. And girls, you know what I mean? Like, it is such a Devil May Cry-esque Devil May Cry game. But it's good. Like, it's just so good. There's just nothing like it. And nobody really makes games like this at all, especially now. So it feels good to be back. It's just so.
What's up with Lady?
Yeah, Lady's
Lady
here.
still here.
Trisha's here. Dante.
Everybody's
the
here.
guy, pizza guy, whose name I always forget for some reason. He's here. Virgil is here again. So, like, pretty much anybody that matters at all in the entire Devil May Cry franchise is back for this one. So it's good. You know what I mean? I want to like give Dante like a shave. Like, he just needs to clean up a little bit.
Yeah, he used to look like cool. Like, he used to look like a pretty boy. Now he just looks like listen to Dad Rock. Like, Creed's my favorite band. I should see if I could find it, but I don't know if you saw that there was like a photo manipulation of the cover
of the game that was going around, and instead of the characters, it was like the picture of Kylo Ren with his shirt off, Jack Frost from the Guardians movie, and then the old guy from Detroit Become Human, the cop.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is pretty good. I enjoy that a lot.
That's about all you need to know. And the other thing that's really, and I think people have mentioned this a bunch online, so this is not news to anybody, but the thing that really just seals the deal on this game for me is the fact that, so you call Nico is the kind of southern, questionably southern, she has a really weird accent, who drives the van, who makes she does all your upgrades, and she makes your durable trigger arms and stuff. And her ability to show up in places that she should not be is so hilarious, and it never stops being funny. So anytime there's a phone, you can call her, and then occasionally she'll like burst through a wall or come down from the ceiling, and it'll just be like indoors where a van should not be able to get to, but she'll just show up, and it's worth it every single time. Like they spent a lot of time thinking about how to make this work, and it's just good. It's very irreverent that way.
That's very funny.
It's good. It's so good.
I want to get back into it. I haven't played Devil May Cry since Devil May Cry 3. So since like PlayStation 3 is when I last played it, and I loved it. I didn't touch 4, not because like it wasn't a good game or whatever. Like there were other games that needed to be played, and honestly, I played Devil May Cry 3, and I don't remember what the hell
it
was
doesn't
even
matter.
going on.
It literally does not matter
at
all.
I know, right? All I remember is I had a good time, and that's all that matters. So
I think you'll like this one. Like, it's tough for me to be like, if you're completely new to the series, you should play this game, because on the one hand, I think the combat is really good. I think it's easy to get into, and it sort of explains itself well enough. If you don't really care about the story, you don't have to really engage with it. There's like a movie that you can watch within the game. Like, I love that this is the thing now. Like, you guys were here when I started playing the Kingdom Hearts like 800 movies that you could watch in order to understand what was going to happen in Kingdom Hearts 3. So they have a very condensed version of that for Devil May Cry 5 to explain what happened in Devil May Cry 1 through 4. So like you can kind of like just get there. And I mean, the gist is just, Dante is a demon hunter and Virgil is his brother, and they fight all the time. There's some girls, and Nero's also here. That's the plot. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. But yeah, it looks good in 4K. Like, it just looks so good. This is what I wanted. This is what I needed right now. This is the content I crave. It's not very long either, so it's a pretty easy ask. Like, I want to say there's 20 missions, and people have said it's about 15 hours just to play through it straight and not go back and do like side quests or S ranks or stuff like that. So it's not a huge ask to just sit through it. So I like it. The thing too that's cool, I'm sorry, this is the last thing, I promise. It pairs you with other people online. So yeah, so because there's 3 characters, they're all experiencing the same events in like different pieces. So there's instances where you'll play missions from the perspective of one person and then also from the perspective of another person. So it'll be like the same location but like different pathways essentially. And so they will pair you with someone online. So like, as an example, you're playing a mission as Nero, and it's paired you with someone who's playing as V, and you can see that person in the distance fighting, doing their thing in their level. And they can see you doing your thing in your level, and then at the end you can see their score, and you can like, give them a kudos or whatever. Do
you interact in any way?
Only at the end it tells you like, hey, this person was your V. And it'll come up in the beginning when you first loaded the level and say like, and starring whatever the person's name is as whoever. Yeah, that's a really cool
fun
thing.
That's
I would like someone to notice me and like see if we could actually like, if it's real time and like while they're doing something they could see me and I could see them and we could like stop and like jump up and down, and you know what I mean? That's what I really want, but I don't know if that's actually feasible.
Yeah.
It's still cool either way. So
tell me about the seas of the sun without.
Oh yeah. How is sunless skies?
So I haven't gotten into sunless skies yet.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
sunless sea. Okay.
Yeah,
The hottest
so
releases.
because on the new launch of Sunless Skies, I decided to get into Sunless Sea, the previous game. Mostly just because I planned to play Sunless Skies. I just had kind of wanted to go back and get into it again. I there was some criticism that I was reading about what Sunless Skies did with the formula, and so I'm not 100% sure if I'm sold yet. But it's a good time to talk about Sunless Skies or Sunless Seas because we've been talking about weird eldritch horror stuff, and also the person that went on to create Cultist Simulator was the person who originally worked on the Fallen London series, which included Sunless Sea. He left to create Weather Factory, which is why he's not writing on Sunless Skies. So, all that being said, damn, this game is good, and I always forget how good it is. And I feel like it's another one of those Darkest Dungeon types where you get stuck in the Wikipedia for hours because there's just so much to parse, and it doesn't care about you at all. And it is very obtuse in the way that it presents information. It is essentially you're a ship captain. You're in Fallen London, which is now underground. And you are a ship captain able to sail the Untersee, which is this sort of underground ocean. And so much of it has been sort of inhabited by people. And then most of it is just a complete expanse wasteland that is like unfathomable and you have no idea what's out there. From eldritch terrors to like creatures and monsters and other settlements, and it's a whole thing. And so it's very text heavy, it's very lore heavy. It's a lot about resource management. It's a lot about, it has the kind of Cultist Simulator grind where like you have to kind of get into a sequence of being able to make money pretty reliably so that you can, purchase the supplies that you need in order to go farther and farther out into the Untersee. And it really requires you to have a lot of patience. It's a very slow game, like a very, very slow game. And the implication is that you will die. Like your captain is not going to really ever make it all the way. And so each captain passes down information to the next captain. So you start with a captain, that captain dies. Usually for me, I always like run out of fuel and then I get a tiny boat and then I can't do anything and I hate it, but whatever. Where you succumb to terror or, something else happens to you that's awful. Something kills you in the ocean because there's scary giant crabs and, tentacle monsters and stuff. And so your captains pass down information to the next captain. So when one captain dies, you get sort of what they learned, essentially, and you can kind of just continue forward with a new captain, a new experience. And the layout of the Untersee will change a little bit. So things can only move so far, but it moves stuff around. So you always have to sort of explore and re-explore in order to find stuff, which makes it more challenging than if they were just like, hey, you found everything on your last run, so here you go, it's all back. And I think that's an interesting way to tell the story. So it has a presence, like it has that weighted presence that Cultist Simulator does with the lore and the kind of, like, that there's so much more that you don't understand to it, which is really cool. I like that. I like the reading all the lore cards and stuff.
Yeah, I remember playing it too. The lore is pretty like deep, and you kind of do need the wiki just to kind of like. I'm not gonna say that it's like Dark Souls in its storytelling, but it's only like Dark Souls in the fact that like you get like little context and hints at things, and then like the wiki, it's still there in the game. Like you could actually go read journal entries, but the wiki does a pretty good job of like summarizing things. And I missed a few things just playing the game the first time around, and I was like, and I like read on the wiki like, oh shit, this is what's going on. Oh, I had no idea. That's pretty cool. So,
yeah, it's cool.
Is there like a goal? Like, are you like trying to like fight a monster or anything, or is that kind of left to be obtuse? What's kind of your like end state of that game?
It's kind of vague in that sense. So there's technically a couple of different end states that you can reach, and there's more that unlock the more that you explore. So when you first start out, you get to pick kind of from your list of what you believe your final end quest to be. And so one is you're trying to find the bones of your father who died at the Z. Or you could just be like, I want to amass a bunch of money and retire in a mansion. That's another one. And so choosing those will kind of dictate you a set of like just a basic ass quest line to follow, like go to this person, talk to this person, get this resource, come back, whatever. And as you explore out in the Z, you find more and like more people, and this unravels more quests, and like certain people that you talk to will awaken certain sorts of spirits who become aware of your presence, and you start to see things that other people have not experienced before, and then you get that kind of cosmic horror piece of like, some kind of enlightenment, some kind of god figure stuff like that all ties in. So I have not been able to finish a quest because I always die because I'm trash. So you got to really play the long game.
I'm glad that. Yeah, I think the thing, because I've seen videos of the game being played, and I'm like, oh, this seems really cool. I just didn't really understand, like, okay, are we just gonna go around and explore? Is that what we're doing? I'm glad that there's like a quest system of some sort. Like there's a goal that you have to
handhold you, and
accomplish.
it gives you new quests all the time. And sometimes it's just like, do a favor for this person or take this to this. You know what I mean? Like there's always stuff to do. So full disclosure, I do not actually know what an end game looks like. Like, if there is kind of a big overwhelming thing. I never got that far, and I kind of wanted to stay in the dark. Like, I never read it on the wiki. You know what I mean? Like, because I just wanted to kind of keep it as, like, I don't know. I know it when I see it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
What I have heard is that Sunless Skies does not have an end game, really. So I've heard that some people were frustrated with that because they didn't feel like they were doing something towards a sort of meaningful end. But Sunless Skies is neat because you're in outer space, but you drive a train. So, sure, why not? It's like a steam train in space.
This is like, there's like a game that came before these,
Fallen
right? Like a
London,
browser game or something?
Yeah.
Fallen
So you can actually upload your Fallen London data
There's...
to Sunless Sea. And it will, like, some of that lore will come through based on the decisions that you made in the browser game. So if you're really into it, you can do that.
I mean, it seems like the lore is the way to go here. I've just never really played the browser game, so you have to check that out.
Sunless Sea does stand alone, so you don't necessarily need to know. But sometimes it's confusing to just be like, there's a surface and you don't really know who those people are. You just know that you're underground and there's like an endless ocean underground. And that's kind of all you're given. So playing that maybe would give you more context if you're just like really into knowing. But otherwise you can play, without it. I love that game. It's such a Darkest Dungeon type where it's like once you're in, you know what I mean? And it feels endless, but I feel like it's rewarding. It punishes you for being too greedy, for sure. And I think Cultist Simulator does that too, and I think Darkest Dungeon does that too. You know what I mean? It's all about what's
more obtuse? Darkest Dungeon, this, or Sun Seas? Or Darkest Dungeon, sorry. Let me rephrase that. Darkest Dungeon, Cultist Simulator, or this? Sunless Seas.
That's the most obtuse,
okay.
I think.
That's good to know.
I would say after that would be Sunless Sea. That's less obtuse. There's a lot of menus, but there's not a ton of tutorials outside of just the basics. And then I would say Darkest Dungeon is like a slow burn, so like it's kind of slowly unlocks pieces as you go, so you're always getting stuff as you need it.
And I mean, Darkest Dungeon it holds your hand at first, but then it just completely... It chops off your hand, to be honest.
It chops off both of your hands and kills everybody that is in your party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kicks you down a hole into the dungeon itself.
That's why you can never escape.
Totally holds your hand, decides it likes your hand, and then chops both of them off and runs away.
Yeah.
So
basically the moral of the story is get cosmic, worship a god, play Tetris Effect. That's it. Yeah.
Go to the astral plane.
Astral plane, Tetris Effect, talk to God, become a god, create a cult. Yeah.
Eat the god.
Sorry. The only game in this franchise we did not talk about was Bloodborne. And I almost made a Bloodborne reference, and I'm not going to. Although it is Return to Yharnam week this week. It's going to be over by the time this podcast comes out, so don't care. So if you want to go baback, now's the time to go, because people are there to be summoned if you need help. So I'm going to put some time in later this week because I love being summoned. Like, I love helping. So I'm going to spend some time doing some helping because it makes me happy. Do you guys want to do some salutations?
Sure.
Yes.
Yep.
So our salutations of the week is when we talk about stuff that we like, that makes us happy. This world is dark and full of horrors, as we've just spent the last hour telling you about. And so sometimes we just need something really cool to take the pain away. I think originally we did these, they were only about video games, and now they're just about whatever the hell you want. Mine was originally clocks, and I changed that because I realized that was a really weird one.
Clocks like
so,
Coldplay
no,
clocks,
so
the song?
So before we get into this, I'll give you the tangent of
the concept
of
time.
So it
Time
was
and space.
it was having a clock in your house that's not your phone, because my phone on Sunday decided to observe daylight savings time. And for people who do not know,
wow.
Arizona does not observe daylight savings time, the state in which I live. And so my phone decided I lived in Denver. Apparently this was a very common bug that happened to iPhone owners.
I was the only person who was not affected by this, it seems. But continue.
It didn't end up being that big of a deal. I got up at 8, and I was like, wow, my dogs let me sleep in. This is so great. I'm going to go to Trader Joe's. And then I ended up at the Trader Joe's like 15 minutes before it opened because I got up at 7. And I didn't know it until I looked at a clock that was not my phone. And I didn't realize how much I relied on my phone clock as like the harbinger of all news that is 100% correct. So I felt a little let down and lied to and upset. Anyway, have a clock that's not your phone, just in case your phone lies to you, because sometimes it does and we can't trust technology that much. Anyway, salutations! Tyler, do you want to get us started?
Yeah. So my salutation for this week is going to be Riverdale.
Oh, the CW show.
Yes. Guys.
Archie, if you will.
Yes, it is Archie. It's the modern day retelling of Archie. I have heard many things about Riverdale, and I was like, it's not really for me, I don't think. Like, it looks like it's like I never got into Teen Wolf or like any of those kind of shows. But then today I just was like at work, and I was like, let's just watch Riverdale. Like, let's just get into it. Let's just see what it's about. Like, if it's shitty, fine, so be it. And that first episode, if you've never seen Riverdale, just watch the first episode, and like, if you don't like what you see, it's not for you. But I loved what I saw, and like, I could not stop. At work, it was bad. But oh my god, like, just the direction, the cinematography, and the way that it's able to tell a huge story, or give away like details and information with like the little minute details of the scene setting and like little, I don't know how to describe this, but basically it gets away with like less is more, and it's beautiful. And the writing is actually pretty great. Like, unlike, let's say, I guess recently the Sabrina the Teenage Witch came out on Netflix. Unlike that, where it's kind of like witty, it's like dark wit, and it takes itself seriously. This takes itself seriously, but it's also still that corny teen humor that you get, but like, it doesn't feel terrible to hear, and it still somehow seems fresh. And I just love the story so far. And honestly, it's very reminiscent of Twin Peaks. Have you guys seen Riverdale?
I have not, but everybody is into it, so I guess that I should.
I was hesitant, and now I have seen the light.
I have not seen this show. What's up with Jughead? How's Jughead doing in this show?
I mean, not light spoilers, I suppose. He's the narrator.
Really?
So he's...
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll say, so I know that you mentioned like, oh, it's Archie. Well, it's not really Archie. It's literally just, let's just take all of, Archie the comic, and like take all the characters and then just create them as their own. And really it's just like the names. And like there's some loose, very, very loose ties to Archie the comic, but it's not, the characters in Riverdale are not the same characters that are in Archie. Like there's but when I mean like there's some connection to Archie, it's just means like there's some love triangle bullshit that goes through, which is like, it's, that's typical teenage drama television, right? So, but honestly, it drops all of that, and because like the first, I think I made a tweet and I was like, wow, the relationships in the show are so complex and it's awful, but like it totally does away with it instantly, and like it becomes more about the interpersonal relationships they have with each other as friends and stuff. It's very good. I would say just watch the first episode, which is like an hour long. And if you don't like it, you don't like what you see, the rest of it's probably not going to be for you, because at least, I mean, I'm 4 episodes in now. And it's only gotten so much better since then. And I don't know, I just love it. Some parts are very corny, I will admit. Some parts are very corny. But you know what? It's good. I watched, just kind of as a side note, I think we mentioned this, but there's the new Order show on Netflix, which is like about werewolves and mysticism and stuff.
And we briefly thought it was about the video game.
We thought it was the video game reincarnate. Well, it might be. I watched the first episode of it and I was like, this is awful. Unlike Riverdale, the writing is not good, and it is cheesy to an unbearable point. And like, I feel like I'm watching a show that should have aired in the 90s, but is now airing now. And it's just like, what is this? In contrast to Riverdale, which I super enjoyed. So maybe that's why I like Riverdale a whole lot more, but also I feel like I could have watched it at any time and still loved it. So that's my salutation, is watched Riverdale.
I need a Josie and the Pussycat spinoff. That's what I really want.
I didn't even know that they were in there, and then they were there, and I was like, is that...
Oh my God, they're in there? They're in the show?
Yes. Sorry if I spoiled that for you, but like they're in the show, and I was like, what? And I just fell in love even more.
That's amazing.
Olivia, what is your salutation for this week?
So, did you guys ever get into Magic the Gathering in your
Somebody
youth?
tried to teach it to me, but I was an idiot and
just a little.
So I didn't really play a lot of Magic the Gathering growing up. I got into it more in like college. I was like, oh, I'll play this, and I got built a couple decks, and I was having a good time. Hearthstone fucked me up recently. Me and my partner have only I got her into Hearthstone, so now we've been playing Hearthstone together, and it's been a mistake. And then I was like, I should play more card games. So then I installed Magic the Gathering Arena, and I was like, man, Magic's fucking good. And I pulled out all my old Magic cards. I've been organizing them. And this is related to a YouTube series I wanted to recommend called Ristic Studies. And what the YouTube series is like it's one guy, and he goes through and either like explores a mechanic within Magic the Gathering and kind of does a meditation on like game design and also life and also just like the history of Magic the Gathering itself, and goes into the art and everything like that. It's just really, really well done. The one episode I'm going to link in the podcast notes is one about the Black Lotus, which is like a super rare, it's like a fabled Magic card, and he kind of goes into like, it's like the super rare one that's like incredibly expensive. He kind of goes into like, okay, why is this card like actually super valuable? Like, why did it get crazy? And then also talking about the game mechanics and like, okay, here's what this card can do and why it maybe does deserve the praise that it gets, and also, hey, like we shouldn't be freaking out about this card. So it's just like a really, really fun like YouTube series that like it has really high production values. You know, it's also like, if you don't want to hear 20 minutes about Magic the Gathering, probably not for you. But if that speaks to you in any way, I'd highly recommend it.
I'm interested.
Watch the Black Lotus one, because I feel like that was the episode that got a lot of people in. You know, right. I saw it linked on multiple like blogs and stuff, so I think it's worth going back to. Rebecca, what's your salutation?
So if my salutation for the week is not having a clock that's not your phone. I'm sorry. I'm so mad on Sunday.
You have nothing to apologize for. At my clock, so I'm experiencing like daylight savings time, but like the second time, like living outside of Arizona, and everything changed on Sunday. I lost an hour of sleep, and I'm looking at my microwave right now, and I only changed it today because I was like getting ready for the podcast, and I was like, wait, no, it can't be 8. It's not possible. So fuck daylight savings time. Yeah. Clocks are cool.
Time is a lie. We should abolish daylight savings time. Apparently they're going to do it in Europe. Anyway, that's not my salutation. So my my salutation for
abolish time. That's your salutation.
I'm sorry. We spent this whole time talking about cosmic horror. So my salutation is abolish time and ascend. Yeah, my salutation for this week is for Hypnospace Outlaw, which is a new game that came out today, the day that we are recording this, which is also the 30th birthday of the internet. So happy birthday. The internet is a millennial, so deal with that, boomers. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so Hypnospace Outlaw is, I got to play it a little bit before we did this pod, and it is incredible. It is incredible. The general gist is the year is 1999, and there is basically like a headband, essentially, that you can wear that allows you to surf the internet while you are asleep. And this internet is set up very much like GeoCities, right? So it's just people have pages, they're kind of a trash fire, they can do whatever they want, people are playing like MIDI music in the background, there's some like weird kind of early 3D animation, like when Flash started to become a thing. And so you are playing as an enforcer in this space. You essentially are a content moderator, also asleep. And your job is to go in and basically moderate other people's 1999 sleep dream GeoCities. And it is so evocative of that time online. Like if you grew up around this time, or you were going to, computers class when you're in elementary school, and you're going to, stupid games online or whatever, that's this. And the funny thing about it is that, like, it basically replicates an OS. Like, you get everything from the booting, you get everything from like the weird screensavers. You can move around on your sort of dashboard desktop, and you can download files and open files and put stuff in your. It's like having a full functioning Windows.
Is there a text editor?
Probably. I haven't gotten. Well,
oh,
you
man,
can
that
have
would sell it to me.
Like sticky notes. You remember the old sticky notes apps that you could have that would like put text on your desktop?
Yeah.
There's that. It is just like to the point where you sit and watch a tutorial on how to play, and it is the most 1999 ass shit ever, where it's like very poorly animated, and then there's like really bad dubbing, and the guy like doesn't quite get the words correctly, and it like constantly loops the same video over and over and over again, and it's like that really jumpstart math blaster shit. It is so fucking good. It is just so good. I'm excited to spend more time with it because it's just the most fascinating thing how well they managed to capture this time. So if you have any kind of nostalgia for being online in sort of the late 90s, early 2000s, please pick this game up. Please. Because it is just incredible. Even if it did nothing other than just be a replica of a homepage and I could just click on stuff, like, I would be fine with that. So I'm really interested to see how far they take this concept of content moderation, and like how deep you can get into, what that really looks like in this kind of weird frontier zone online. So this game is great. It's great. I'm so glad it exists. So I think you both would really like it. Like, Olivia, I think you would really like this.
I watched the video whenever you put it on our like shared document, and I was just like, I started it and I'm like, I shouldn't watch anymore. I gotta experience this because it looks so fucking bananas. I'm trying to think of, there's a game that Giant Bomb played, and I think it was like Disruptor or something like that. Like you were making music videos.
Huh.
And like it kind of had that. It was an actual 90s game. I gotta remember what it's called. I'll look it up later. But it was the same aesthetic as this game, as Hypnospace Outlaw, but like for real. And I think that's the best endorsement you can give to a game of this style, where it's like, yeah, you could have mistaken this for the other game that
absolutely
actually did come out in the 90s.
Authentic. Like, it is absolutely authentic. And I like that this trope is kind of coming up, because I know that a couple years ago, I don't know if either of you played Kingsway. Kingsway was like an RPG played through desktop windows, essentially. So like combat encounters would be pop-ups, and you have to like click out of them, and you'd have to like open windows to like do your resource management and stuff like that. It wasn't this to a T, because it wasn't really trying to evoke like a certain time of being on the internet specifically, but it was like like imagine running a D&D game through a bunch of computer screens, you know what I mean? And that was kind of fun and interesting, but I like seeing this go to its natural conclusion, which is to like be a treatise on how weird the internet was, and still is, but it was really a strange, real like bottom up curated space at that time. So I think that is really, really cool. So Hypnospace Outlaw, you should play it. Yeah, you should get it. It's on sale right now, actually. I think it's on sale until the 19th. It's the 12th. So you can get it for 20% off on Steam. That's my endorsement. Please buy it. They didn't sponsor us, but you should buy it anyway. Do you guys know what time it is? We got a question.
What time is it?
From a reader. I need to stop calling them readers because I don't know why. They're listeners. They listen to the podcast. I'm reading their question, therefore they are a reader. We have a reader question, so obviously we want to answer some reader questions. It's from our good friend Boots again, because Boots is great. We love him dearly, so shout out to Boots. Boots sent us a great question, so I hope you guys are ready to answer this. I really liked his last question, actually. I still think about NPC Quest and what I really want that to be a thing. So Boots sent us this question. He said, "Hello, greetings from Cast Crew Trio, whichever you go by." That's us, in case you were wondering. I wanted to know, what game would you like to see get the remake treatment a la Resident Evil 2? My pick would be seeing Ocarina of Time remade on the Switch. Take the 3DS version and plop in on the Switch in full HD glory. Thanks! This is a really hard question.
I've got an idea.
So do you know? I have like an idea, but I'm interested to hear what your thought is.
So, do you guys remember Twisted Metal?
Oh no!
Yes.
Back in like the 90s. Yes. That game is bad. It's a bad game. I went back and played it recently. Yeah, the aesthetic is like what I crave. You know, like it's just like really like, oh, I'm gonna listen to like death metal, blah. It's like a teen boy in the 90s listening to like Metallica or whatever. And like there's a guy who's like locked into like two fucking wheels, and it's weird. I want that to be remade lovingly, but then I want them to actually make the gameplay like kind of similar to how Resident Evil 2 redoes everything. Like I want the car combat to work. And I would love to see them take like Twisted Metal 1 and like completely reimagine that game, because it needs love.
That would be cool. I bet that would fly. Like we don't really have good car games. Like we do, but not in that sense.
We do, but we don't.
You know what I mean? Like
it was the Car Royale.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes, that's actually what we need.
Yeah, 99 cars drop from the sky.
Well, like, I feel like the controls in that game are the problem, and then I was playing a little bit of Rocket League. In that game, you're also in a vehicle, and it controls really well. So I feel like that's what, just take the Rocket League tech, basically Car Royale with Rocket League tech, but also I want a guy, like, strapped into two wheels, like, and he's just flying around shooting shotguns.
Axel did exist. I did not understand how.
That was his name.
But yes, his name is Axel. Thank you. And who knows how he did not die every time being shot at with homing missiles and Gatling guns and whatever else, fire bombs. That was a really fun game. I endorse your remake. My remake, I'm kind of split between two games. One is Kingdoms of Amular Reckoning.
Oh shit, that's a name I have not heard in like an age.
I know. I would really want that to be remade. But I think my remade wish is going to go to Arx Fatalis, which is a very old game made by Arcane Studios. I think it's like literally one of the first games that they made back in late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know. But it had a system. So first of all, like I should say, it's a RPG. A medieval kind of mystic and magic Dungeons and Dragons game. But the thing that sets it apart from all the others out there is that its magic system, you had to draw runes on the screen in order to cast spells. And at the time, that was like groundbreaking, but also really difficult to implement because as a mouse, like that's really difficult to do, just drawing those symbols. And like I would remember like drawing the same rune, like it was literally just a square, but drawing the square like so many fucking times before I actually recognized, oh, you're trying to draw the square rune. I want to see that remade as a VR game, and like just get everything up to date, because then you could totally be that battle mage dude who can like draw the runes perfectly or whatever. And I'm sure that they could definitely tweak the system to where, algorithms would make your shitty ass square an actual square and recognize you're trying to cast a light spell or something stupid. That would be my remake. That's what I would want.
I had never heard of this game until you brought it up, and I was like, I should look this up and see how much it costs on Steam. And ends up I own the game, so I'm gonna check out
probably because it's probably like $2, honestly, and
it was like $5. It's really cheap.
Oh, it's so cheap, but it's so good, and like I don't know, it's kind of from my childhood because from that era, but like I don't know, it hit me right, and that game goes some places, you guys. Like, if you get to the end game, it goes some places, and you're like, what? But, back then it did. From now, I'm pretty sure you could see, like, oh, fuck off, whatever. I've seen that 10 million times. But at the time, it was, like, so out there. Anyway, that would be my remake.
That would be good.
So
I think I'd be interested to see that. We're in a good place with VR. Like, we could make that work, I think.
It would be the game that I would buy VR for. I mean, like, I want to buy VR and get VR games, but like that would be hands down my in to the VR world.
Yeah.
So
I could see that. That would be cool. I think I also have two answers for this question, because on the one hand, because I think that my true answer maybe is cheating, but what I would like is for someone to remaster the Fable series, because I really like those. Just to like re-release them on the new console and give them a little bit of HD polish. Because I still will break out my 360 to play Fable 2, because I really, really like that game. So anyway, I just wish somebody would, give a shit about Fable. My real, true, honest to God answer, and this kind of probably also fits into Boots' question for us last time, which was, what was your sort of dream game? I really, 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 really desperately would like the Oregon Trail, but in the Red Dead engine. Like, I really want that to be like,
oh my God,
single player,
yes.
story driven, kind of RPG light thing where you drive your wagons and you camp and you go hunting and you do all your kind of awful pioneer frontier medicine, and you can go from like town to town and Culk and float the wagons. Like, I really want that, but in like a third person RPG, and you can kind of still design your family and do all that stuff. Like, that's what I really want. That's what I really want.
I think with the like rise of the survival sim, like Rust and stuff like that, I think we're ready. I think people can stomach like driving like your little wagon probably for like 40 hours.
Yeah.
I think we can make that a reality.
So many
now.
hours into friggin' Euro Truck Simulator that I am willing to drive anything anywhere at this point in completely real time if I have to. It would just be so fascinating, especially with kind of the ways that you could be like, oh, I'm going to go to California instead, or I'm going to give up and just stay in Salt Lake City, and the weather and the shopping. I don't know. I just like, I have such fond memories of Oregon Trail from when I was a kid. Like, that felt like a really formative game for me, that having that done as like a survival sim on the one hand, but also like I want a story driven element. Like, I want to have character relationships. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to choose, like, create my character and be a doctor or a banker or a farmer or whatever. God, I really want that really bad now, but I still want songs around the campfire. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, it has to be the Red Dead engine.
Hopefully Rockstar will patch this into
it's
Red
just
Dead
Oregon
Online.
Trail.
That would be the optional world
thing.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That would be nice. Too bad they're just giving you gold nuggets that are worth nothing and hats that you have to spend gold nuggets on.
Since you guys did two, can I do one more? Because I actually got like a real answer now.
Go for
it. Twisted Metal was not a real answer.
I'm sorry, Twisted Metal was the most correct answer.
Twisted Metal. I think I would actually like to see Knights of the Republic 1 and 2 remastered.
Yeah.
I think going back to those games. Yeah, I've gone back to them recently, and just like the kind of lag, even on my PC, when it's like, I'm going to talk to this person, and then it just kind of like hangs for a second, then it loads in the person's face, and it's like, or like the voice acting is a little dated now. Like the weird it's not pod racing, but the weird like vehicle racing sequence in the first like world you're on just does not work very well. So I really would like to, and then like also patch in all of that content that's from the unofficial patch for Knights of the Republic 2. I just think that would be really fucking cool to like both those games at the same caliber as Resident Evil, where it's like, man, this just looks amazing, and there's like a billion fucking worlds, because those games are so good.
There's like a bunch of games from that time I think that could really benefit from that, because for some reason the one thing I was thinking of while you were mentioning this was Morrowind. Like,
I was gonna mention that too. I was like, God, I didn't fucking say Morrowind. But
like, not even needing to be ported, but just having like that level of polish, that level of like mechanics. You know what I mean? That would be nice.
Right. I still go to the Skywind website, and like they're porting Morrowind to Skyrim, and I'm like, man, it's been, you know, like they've been doing it for like 7 years now, and it's like still pretty far away, but I'm like, got my fingers crossed they don't give up on it, because I would like to see that whole game.
Under, will it release before Elder Scrolls 6? Yeah,
it definitely
that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I'm pretty sure Elder Scrolls 6 is still 5 years away.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good, right? So we have so Knights of the Old Republic, Twisted Metal, Arx Vitalis, Oregon Trail. That's such a terrible answer. Faithful, like Morrowind, like these are all good. These are all good.
Basically, remake all the games and resell them to me.
Keep buying them. Keep repackaging them. I'll keep buying it. It's gonna be weird when the new generation of consoles comes out and they're like, it's God of War remastered for the new one again.
If these are not backwards compatible, okay, if the PlayStation 5 is not backwards compatible, I'm gonna lose my shit. Just putting that out here now.
Well, I understand why, but like, seriously, you guys, money, that's why you're not gonna make it backwards compatible. I don't have my hopes up. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be, because that's how the world fucking runs, for no reason other than money.
I feel like I saw that Sony had patented some kind of backwards compatibility.
Yeah, there was some patent going around where they actually, like, you could put in a PS2 game on, like, a console, like, that was the rumor, and then just, like, play it. So that's the reality I hope for. But if we don't get a remake, like, if the PS4 games, the library I've built out so far doesn't carry over, it's going to be a rough day for me.
I didn't buy these discs to sit on my shelf and rot away for nothing. Disc rot is real, y'all. Well, I think that's a podcast. I hope. We covered some miles with some games today, and that was fun. I'm glad we got to share. I also think it's very interesting that we all went cosmic horror. I don't know what that says about us or about what's happening. Yeah,
we're all linked.
But
yeah,
there's
some kind of entity out there
controlling us. So yeah, this has been the Greetings From podcast. You can find us wherever podcasts are hosted and sold completely for free, such as Apple, Simplecast, Spotify, and all the other ones that I don't even know about. You probably can listen to us in a 1999 version of Windows. Who knows? Send all of your questions, such as the one that we just answered from our lovely friend Boots, to greetingsfromcast@gmail.com. You can visit us on the World Wide Web at greetingsfrom.zone, and you can also follow us on Twitter at greetingsfrompc. My name is Rebecca Faye. You can find me at Rebecca Faye. It's pretty straightforward. Livia, where can they find you?
At LivJQ on Twitter. Tyler, where can they find you?
Find me crawling in the darkest dungeon at World Jumpin'.
Ooh, majestic.
Well, that was a really good Malcash.
Thanks for listening to Greetings From. Our intro and outro music is an edited version of Deep Fried Space Food by Substitute Sandwiches. You can find a link to the song in the podcast description. You can listen to more episodes at greetingsfrom.zone. We are also on Twitter and Twitch at greetingsfrompc and on Facebook at greetingsfromcast. Please leave us a review with your thoughts on iTunes or Google Play. It really helps us. See ya, Space Cowboy.